Hi guys, we are here at the YI stand to look at the new M1 Micro Four Thirds camera. We've seen other brands use the Micro Four Thirds mount and sensor in the past for video and still cameras. At Photokina 2016, a new player entered the game. The Chinese company YI, which stands for Young Innovators, announced an entry-level camera at a competitive price. The camera looks very minimalistic from the outside. The body is made of plastic but should be scratch resistant. The two lenses announced with the camera have a plastic mount and barrel. It lacks a tilting screen, but the LCD is touch sensitive. The camera has very few buttons, so most operations are performed with the touchscreen. There are only 4 physical buttons. In addition to the shutter release button, you find a movie record button in the middle of the mode dial and 2 buttons on the rear to play back the image and change the focus area between multi and single. The menu and all the settings can be changed and navigated with your fingers. You enter the menu by swiping to the right and access the picture profile by swiping to the left. I found the touch sensitivity to be reactive and precise. Only scrolling up and down in the menu sometimes requires multiple attempts. If you want to change the aperture or shutter speed in manual mode, you must first touch the dedicated icon on the left, but a physical dial is present to make the operation more intuitive. The camera features a 20 megapixel micro four thirds sensor, and you get the same 200 to 25600 ISO sensitivity found on most micro four thirds cameras. What has yet to be seen is how effective the YI processor engine is. From the few shots I was able to take, I found the image quality encouraging. My first impression is that the JPEGs are a little bit soft, but I didn't have time to play with all the settings and I'm curious to see the quality of the RAW files as well. The autofocus is based on contrast detection. It isn't slow, but it isn't the fastest you can find among Micro Four Thirds camera either. You can use the touchscreen to move the focus point or take a shot. Continuous shooting goes up to 5 frames per second. The camera can record in 4K at 30 frames per second. When you hit record, the camera automatically switches to continuous autofocus regardless of the settings you select. The tracking is not too bad, but the camera seems to constantly hand back and forth even when the subject stands still. A new feature never seen on a camera before is what YI calls Master Guide, which is basically a series of visual tips about how to pose your subject for better portrait shots. You can browse through different composition templates, and once you select one, a silhouette overlay will display on the LCD screen. All you have to do is fit your subject into the overlay and try to achieve the same pose. The camera will automatically adjust exposure settings. It's some sort of more advanced portrait mode for beginners. More templates will be available to download from the YI website. Along with the M1, YI also announced 2 lenses, a 12 to 40mm f3.5 to 5.6 and a 42.5mm f1.8 with semi-macro capabilities. The portrait lens seems to lack some sharpness wide open if we pixel peep, but it isn't too bad. The 2 lenses lack optical stabilization and the M1 does not have sensor stabilization either. The camera is compatible with any Micro Four Thirds lens. I tried it briefly with the Lumix G35-100mm f2.8 and the autofocus was fast and responsive. Finally, the M1 has Wi-Fi and Bluetooth connectivity. Concerning the price, earlier reports suggested a price tag of under $400, but when looking at Amazon, for example, the M1 with the 1240mm kit is priced at $499 or $699 with the 2 lenses. YI told us that they want to bridge the gap between smartphones and mirrorless cameras with something that is not too expensive, and they are targeting the young generation that may not want to spend too much on a camera. However, if you look online, you can find other mirrorless cameras for $499 or even less, such as, for example, the Lumix GF7 or the original Olympus OMD EM10. Granted, the M1 has just been announced, so there could be a price drop in the near future, making it more competitive. The M1 looks promising, but it lacks a few things. The tilting screen is one of them, especially if you consider that the young generation is very selfie addicted. The camera feels fairly solid and seems to be really light. I think it deserves a chance and we are curious to test it more in depth.